This is going to be a tough one for people to hear, which is every time someone asks me like what it takes to be an artist, and the first thing I tell them is you have to accept to be poor. Like it doesn't mean you're going to be poor. You might not be poor, but you have to at least accept that.
Ruslan.
Before we get into that, guys, my name is Ruslan, and this channel exists to encourage you to mastermind your business the master's way. May not be subscribed yet, so if you aren't, please hit that subscribe button as we are on the verge of cracking 10,000 subscribers, and I would love to celebrate that with you. All right, now let's get into the video. How do you sustain yourself as an artist, right? Because we have a lot of rappers, artists, entrepreneurs, aspiring YouTubers, podcasters. Tell me just the mechanics of like, how does that work practically in terms of what you do, right? Because I think people see now and you're like an icon of sorts in this world, right? But how do you practically sustain yourself?
So yeah, this is going to be a tough one for people to hear, which is that every time someone asks me like what it takes to be an artist, and the first thing I tell them is you have to accept to be poor. Like it doesn't mean you're going to be poor. You might not be poor, but you have to at least accept that. Like we live in a world where it's the easiest time in history to be poor, right? It's like everything is there to help you not die of hunger. And so if you accept to be poor, then anything is possible. Right.
Well, or be poor for a season.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
And so when we got back from Africa, I didn't even think that I was going to do this, by the way. Like like I told you, my life doesn't work that way. Like I might be a counterexample to the kind of business planning thing.
Sure.
We got back from Africa, and all I was trying to do was sustain my family. I was looking for a job, and I was trying, we'd been 7 years volunteers in Africa. We came back. We had no money. My wife was pregnant of our third child. Like this was intense situation, right? And so basically, I was trying to find opportunities and jobs, and there would always be these opportunities that would show up, but they would always fall flat. Sometimes like big opportunities, like big projects that would be like amazing. I was interviewed for a CEO position, like all this like huge things that would kind of appear in front of me and then vanish. And this happened for like 2 years. And at that time, then I was just carving kind of in just to survive psychologically. I was making these little carvings, put up a little website, sent a few emails, whatever. And by the time, after about 2 years, my last project, big, huge project, I was working on it for like a year. A friend of mine, the financing didn't go through. It all fell apart and I had nothing. And I was like, God, it's like, what's going on? It's like, I thought we served you. Like I thought we did what we had to do. And so how is it that we're in this position constantly? And then I just realized at that moment that I had $10,000 of carving commissions that just kind of weirdly, gradually crept up. And that's all I had. I had nothing else. So I just said, all right, that's what I have. And so I made the first carving and the second carving, and then I kept going and I never stopped.
So meaning people commissioned you for work?
Yeah, they would just ask me to make carvings and pay me. And first I was ridiculously undercharging because it was all new and I didn't know what I was doing, and I was trying to prove myself, and just like any kind of work. And then slowly I would use the opportunities that the commissions gave me to make the most amazing thing that I could, and spend 3 times more time on it than when I should have. While being, under the legal poverty line or whatever with my family. Luckily, I have an amazing wife who likes being poor. Like she thinks like poverty is a blessing from God. That's like, they really thank God for that, because that might not have ended well, you know? And then ultimately at some point, people wrote me and offered me things to like do trainings and then getting bigger and bigger commissions, and ultimately. And
how long did that go? Like how long did it go from you guys are struggling, it's tight financially, to like, okay, we got some breathing room? And
I would say about 5 years.
So 7 years in Africa, come back 5 years really.
Because we also decided to homeschool. My wife didn't work. So it was like we were just all in, like just totally all in.
You know what the interesting thing, man, is there's parallels between our stories, and this is how is when I worked at my church for 2 years. I didn't really do music, but then I would do it on the side, and it got to the point where I couldn't do both, and I felt like I had to choose one, either stay in ministry or pursue being a creative entrepreneur. And what we did in that process, I shared a little bit of this, is we paid off all of our expenses to where we basically could survive off of like $2,500 a month. Like our rent was like $1,300. You got health insurance, food. My wife stayed home with our first son, and it got us close enough to the they got the ship close enough to the dock where we could take that leap, and we saved up 6 months of living expenses.
That's a really good point. Like this is something I guess I haven't said, which is that before we left for Africa, both my wife and I had very well-paying, high-paying corporate jobs. And what we did is we put massive amounts of money on our mortgage, like just massive amounts. And then by the time that we left, our mortgage was, I think, almost like half paid already.
Wow.
And then we rented the house. and we basically all the rent money went into the mortgage.
Wow.
So by the time that I got back from Africa, I had like a $30,000 mortgage.
And that's all you had left on your mortgage?
And so basically I could live with nothing. My mortgage was less than rent.
Yeah.
Like it would have cost me more to like rent an apartment than it did to live in my house.
Yeah. This is the pragmatic part of art that no one talk, that not enough people talk about, is like you decreased your expenses.
Yeah.
Almost to literally, I mean, you almost completely paid off your house. We did the same thing. We were renting, but our rent was $1,300 a month. And what that allowed, because we didn't have any debt, we didn't really have any expenses. So instead of having to make $5,000 a month, I knew, okay, I got 6 months of living expenses saved up. I think it was like $25K at the time. And I knew that I got 6 months of ramp, right? And if it all fails, I could go drive for Uber, or before I go get a job, I go drive for Uber. I could figure it out. And by the grace of God, man, it was like year one, and then the freed up time was, I could do more, so I could make more money. So year one, we grossed 6 figures, and every 6 year as an independent Christian rapper in 2015.
Amazing.
5 years of that. And then finally I pivoted to YouTube, and the YouTube is like what really exploded, right? So it wasn't the thing. It wasn't the thing I thought it was going to be. It was the thing that led to the thing. But it was the same principle.
Definitely, like there's a reason why loaning with interest is prescribed in scripture, and why for 1,500 years in Christianity, Christians weren't actually allowed to loan money to each other with interest, is because interest is a master.
Oh yeah,
dude, like debt is a master. This is also something I'm very grateful for, is that both my wife and I, when we got married, we both agreed that we would live as debt free as possible, and that in some ways is really what made it possible for me to become an icon carver. Like on the practical side, was when we got back from Africa, like literally, we had a bit of money coming out of the volunteer position where they gave us some like kind of like some run up time, and ultimately we were able to. And also because, and the thing too about being poor, is that also when you're poor you have miracles like nonstop. Like we had nonstop miracles when we were super poor.
My whole life as a Christian rapper feels like one big miracle, dude. The fact that I was able to provide for a wife and a child in Southern California for 5 years, and my wife homeschooled and didn't work a job is miraculous in hindsight, So think about it like being poor in the sense of like, I'm in poverty, I'm on a public assistance. I think about it being poor as like, how can I just decrease my burn rate to nothing?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's like I said accept being poor in the sense of just accept to just get
live a simple life.
Just buy secondhand clothes, and you go to the grocery store, don't buy the high, just buy normal stuff, buy vegetables and meat, and don't buy fancy anything, and you'll be fine. Like it doesn't cost that much to live, to be honest. Like if you're sober, but like I said, but the thing too though, that if you're doing what's right, I think, and you're in that position, then you actually have like my wife now sometimes like misses being poor. Because like we would have these crazy moments where just money would just land in our lap, like out of nowhere. People calling us and saying, I was praying and God like nudged me to offer you this money, and it was exactly what we needed to finish our month or to pay this or that. And it was crazy, That doesn't happen anymore. Because now it's different. It's great now for other reasons, but that type of miracle is not available.
Sure. So much for watching that video. Guys, I believe that one of the best ways you can build a business is by first building a platform online. So Zach Sparazzo put together a free training for you to learn the #1 metric you can control to help improve your online presence. Zach Sparazzo put together a free training for you on the #1 metric you can be looking for to explode your YouTube platform. Click the link in the pinned comment below so you can start that now. All right? I'll see you over there. Peace.